Hello, everybody. Welcome back to Starlight Beacon Transmissions. Yes, we are here. It is Farpoint weekend. We are hanging out, having fun, talking to all of the various media guests, while also just geeking out with the community here at Farpoint. We're going to be recapping day one. I already released an audio version of the day one recap, but I figured, hey, let's just you know, let's show it again. Let's talk about it again because if you didn't if you didn't get our day one recap and you want to know what we did, now's the time. Give me 1 second here just to let people know that we are live. I hope that you all can see me all right and hear me okay. Hotel Wi-Fi can be a little bit shoddy sometimes. But here we are. So let's dive into the fun, shall we? So yesterday, we got to the hotel about 2:30, 2:45. Got checked in and well, we got checked in for our badges and stuff. You see, you know, got the badges, so that's pretty cool. And we then went to, jeez, then we decided to go just take a look through the dealer's hall for just a few minutes. So we did that, and we saw our buddy Rod Van Blake, who was our booth buddy at Ocean City Comic Con, which was a lot of fun. Rod is a tremendous writer and just a really cool guy, and it's been fun talking to him and getting to know him. And then we decided, after taking a look at the dealer's hall, which we're probably going to go back to the dealer's hall again eh, soonish today. If not, we'll do it tomorrow. Um, Sorry. I wrote all of this out and I lost my script. I'll have to take a look in just a few minutes. But then we decided to go to a panel on Bigfoot and whether or not Bigfoot exists. And that was really interesting. They actually had a guy on the panel that, well, he was leading the panel, and he's a Bigfoot expert, or he's a Bigfoot researcher, I should say. And I will say this, just the I don't know, like, I'm more I okay, how do I explain this? I think after the panel, I'm more confused on whether or not Bigfoot exists or not. And here's just my point with it. It's one of those things where, if you do Bigfoot research, that's awesome. Like, I am so, I think that's great. I really want to see, you're pursuing your passion about that. That's really cool. It's something that you're very curious about. So I want to see what was lacking though was he didn't show any evidence of Bigfoot existing though. He said, like, if you wanted to see evidence, you could go to his Facebook page, but you would think for a panel about Bigfoot existing, we would see some sort of photos that this gentleman took or something like that. And I'm not discrediting this panel at all. Um, who am I to judge what panels you do? But I just feel like I'm leaning more towards the thing that Bigfoot doesn't exist because it just seemed like some of the stuff that he was talking about just kind of felt like it was, it just, I don't know how to explain it. My wife just told me to hush my face. Um, but you see what I mean, though. Like, I'm more confused now than I was going into the panel. Um, But still, it was an interesting panel. Of course, it the topic automatically went to Bigfoot droppings. Um, yeah, I'm gonna leave it at that because I really don't want to get into it. But yeah, it was a fun panel. It was a lot of fun. So after that, I went over to a panel about writing superheroes in prose, like superheroes in novels. And I really thought that to me, that was a really interesting panel because the authors that were there were talking about how not every superhero translates into novels. Um, for example, like Doctor Strange couldn't translate well into a novel because of the fact that you need to how do I say this? Um because like if Doctor Strange is in the dark dimension with Dormammu, you need to describe the dark dimension and Dormammu in very vivid and specific detail. Whereas if you have a Doctor Strange comic, it's easier to describe the dark dimension and Dormammu because you're seeing it in that visual format. You're seeing it in that artistic format. So I thought that that was really an interesting point that they brought up. But if you look at a hero like Green Arrow or even Batman, it's easier to write a prose novel with them because you have pretty much a detective story with Green Arrow, and you pretty much have a detective story with Batman at that point. And they also said like a character like Renee Montoya's Question and even a character like John Constantine would translate more into prose because it's kind of like the more mysterious thing. Whereas if you have a Superman novel, and they have done Superman prose novels, and from what I've heard, they've actually been very good, it's still it's still one of those things where Superman is a lot harder to write in prose because you have all of the heroic, huge actions than you do of like a thinking man's Superman, essentially. One of the examples that they talked about with, excuse me, I'm fighting back a yawn right now, everybody, because I am tired. I did not really sleep well last night. Um, but one of the things that they've been talking about, like a perfect example of prose with comic books is actually Watchmen, where you had the story itself and Alan Moore's prose script. It's a lot of thought-provoking things. Um, yeah, there's still action happening throughout the comic, but you are also seeing the world building. You're seeing the inner workings of the psyche, whether it be Rorschach or the comedian or Night Owl or even Dr. Manhattan. You're seeing like their inner workings, and that's what made Watchmen as popular as a prose as it is a comic book. And you also had the sections in the back of each issue of Watchmen, um, where you saw like some clips from like newspapers, or you had like some of the Legend of the Black Freighter stuff. So you had all of those things in Watchmen as well that not only like helped fleshed out those characters, but it also helped build the world. So that I thought was really interesting. And then from there, we went back to, or we met up with our friends that we're rooming with this weekend, and dropped stuff off in the room and everything. And then we went to my favorite panel of the day, actually, because if you know me, you know I'm a huge fan of kaiju movies. I love giant monsters. My wife was really excited about this one too, and it was pretty much about the history of giant monsters in film. Yes, I see you back there. Oh, you're gonna go to your drag show? Okay. Well, there's a drag show going on as well this weekend at Farpoint, which uh, I'm not going to be attending because I'm on with you guys. Plus, if I tried to live stream that, I think I would probably be copywritten by YouTube because of the music. So, yeah, because of the music, possibly. So, I do not want to get in trouble. You know, it's one of those things where I just don't want to get in trouble. So, anyway, so the kaiju panel was really interesting because they talked about like the different forms. Hi. Hi, bye. Because they talked about the different forms of kaiju movies, whether it be like giant mech movies. You know, mech movies are kind of considered kaiju movies as well. You know, you look at something like Pacific Rim, where you have giant mech suits versus giant monsters. So kaiju movie, giant robot fight giant monster. They talked about Godzilla, King Kong, dinosaurs are even classified as kaiju, you could say, because they are over 20 feet tall. A lot of them are over 20 feet tall, except for like velociraptors and stuff like that. But Jurassic Park would be technically considered a kaiju movie. So that one was really interesting. And then towards the end of the panel, we actually talked about Godzilla minus one, which, well, first off, with this panel, we were talking about how a lot of these kaiju movies um, deal with humanity's destructive capabilities. So you have Godzilla, right? The original Godzilla was used as a metaphor for the atomic bomb. It was used to show man's destruction with the atomic bomb. And you've been seeing it more and more with a lot of other monster movies, but recently, like the legendary movies, yeah, they still kind of talk about how destructive man can be. Excuse me. But they also are just 2 hours of giant monsters hitting each other, which I have no problem with. I will sit down and I will watch a legendary MonsterVerse movie till the cows come home because I love those movies. I think they're fun. I think they're silly, and I just love just seeing giant monster just punch each other. But you are seeing more of the human story. So one of the things that the legendary movies get criticized for is the lack of the human story. But we're getting that with Monarch, which is a really great show. If you have not watched Monarch yet, you really should. It's on Apple TV and it's phenomenal. It's so good. I'm not going to spoil it for anybody because it's just one of those. It's one of those shows that you should just really, really see for yourself. So you have that, and then you also have something like, well, going back to Godzilla minus one. Excuse me, I did not mean to make that sound. I was fighting back a yawn. But going back to Godzilla minus one, you have a Godzilla movie where, yeah, Godzilla's in it. He's, destroying a bunch of stuff. And, you're getting the you're getting the asshole Godzilla. And but the thing that makes Godzilla minus one work as well as it does is the human story to that movie, where you have a failed kamikaze pilot who is trying to not only redeem himself, not only try to find his purpose in life, but he's also trying to learn to live again. And he's surrounded by people that truly care. You also have the 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 nation of Japan still reveling from World War II, still reveling from the bombing of Tokyo, the bombings on Hiroshima and Nagasaki, still reveling in all of that. And now they have this threat of Godzilla, and they end up coming together to to try to defeat what is an unstoppable force. And Godzilla minus one is one of those movies that it just makes me just it's so damn good. It is such a damn good movie. And you should see it. If you have not seen it, you really should. It's incredible. So from there, after that panel wrapped up, we then went to the cocktail hour, which also had a small a buffet of light fare. It was a lot of like pastas, like baked ziti. You also had some Alfredo. They had some chicken pieces on there. They had some salad. Um, for dessert, like they had cheesecake and tiramisu. And, that was really nice because you actually got to mix and mingle with a lot of the Farpoint community. And I'm going to spend a lot of time talking about community here because that to me is one of those things where conventions like this just they cannot survive without a strong community. And this community for Farpoint is absolutely incredible. And Farpoint team, if you guys are watching right now, I just want to say thank you. Thank you for everything that you do. Thank you for all of the hours that you put into planning and executing this convention. You have created an experience that is not only continues a legacy of previous cons that have come before it, like ClipperCon and October Trek, and even Shore Leave, which is a current convention. But you have forged your own legacy, and you have forged the one of tradition, of community, and also of acceptance. And I will tell you this right now. If you have never been to this convention before, I highly recommend that you come here. I highly recommend that you come. Well, if you can this weekend, awesome. If not, come to Farpoint 2025. Seriously, come to Farpoint 2025 because this staff, the community, the people that work this con are some of the kindest, most welcoming people you will ever meet. They really are. They are top of the line. They love what they do. They love bringing this convention to us, the people. And that to me is so important. It's for the fans by the fans. And I love this con. This is my second Farpoint. This is my second Farpoint, and this is the first time that I've actually really dove into Farpoint, because like last year I was commuting, even though it was like a 15-minute commute, like last year I was commuting, which wasn't terrible, but there's some stuff that goes on here like throughout the entire weekend. There's like this the there's a gentleman that won an award last night, and it's the Contact Award. It's a fandom award. And his name is Chris Carruthers. And he described Farpoint perfectly. And that is, this con is like a family reunion. And you're welcoming new relatives all the time. The newcomers are the new relatives that you just found out about at the family reunion and that you're getting to know and hanging out with. And this con feels like a family reunion meets just fun party, right? Like you have a lot of people, just hanging out, lobby conning it up. The lobby is just full of people just hanging out and talking and geeking out about their passions and about their fandom. And then you have the guests, and the guests are like so down to earth and nice and welcoming and really supportive of the community because the community is supportive of them, and it forms this relationship that it just forms like this incredible relationship and this incredible bond. And I will say this, like I said, if anybody from Farpoint is watching this, and I hope that you are, because you all are incredible people. If anybody is watching this from Farpoint right now as we're live, and even if you aren't and you watch back and you watch back the playthrough, thank you. Seriously, thank you from the bottom of my heart. And thank you for taking a chance on us to cover your convention, because this is something that I do not take lightly. This con, like I said, this is the second time that I've been to this convention, but this con means so much to me because of you all, because of you, the Farpoint community, because of you, the fans. You know how to make every newcomer feel welcome. You know how to make everybody feel loved and accepted. You know how to do all of that. And that's because you all, well, this is the 31st Farpoint, but you all continue to shine bright. I said this earlier in our audio episode, and I'll say this again. And that is, sometimes the smallest communities have the loudest voices. And this community has such a loud voice. So I'm going to get into more of the opening ceremonies now. And I'm going to tie this into what I was just talking about here. So with the opening ceremonies, there were a lot of acknowledgments of the hardworking people for Farpoint, and they were they were being thanked. And then they had Chris Carruthers accept the Contact Award, which was um, just wonderful, just absolutely wonderful. And hearing his speech, hearing him talk about the community and everything, and then also hearing him talk about how he was diagnosed with cancer, and I quote, kicked cancer's ass. And that just started bringing me to tears. Because if there's one thing that the Farpoint community does, is it rallies around their community members when things are tough. And even when things are going good, they're still there supporting one another. They're still there uplifting each other. And that is important. That is so important. So, excuse me. So after the Contact Award, they went into the charity auction. There's a silent auction going on, and then throughout the weekend, they're also doing live charity auctions as well. Whether it be in the main panel room, like in between Q&A panels, or whether it be at halftime for Masquerade, or even during the opening ceremonies. You're seeing, like I said, silent auctions like in the art auction and everything, but you're also seeing like live auctions happening throughout the weekend. And there are two big charities that are supported throughout Farpoint weekend, and one of them is the Artway Alliance, which promotes art education, art programs, and everything. And that to me is really cool and really important because the arts are very, very important, especially when it comes to education. And then the other thing that they have is, or the other charity that they support is the Julian Fleming Memorial Fund. And this was a member of a family that is a part of the Farpoint community who um, who passed away. And so they set up a memorial fund for this person. And every year they raise money for the charity. And last night they auctioned off quite a few items and raised close to, if not more than $1,200 for those charities just last night alone um, during the auctions. So last night they ended up auctioning off a 1984 Return of the Jedi Ewok calendar, which went for close to $20. And then they had a book written by Mel Brooks and Carl Reiner called The 2,000-Year-Old Man in the Year 2000. And this was also signed by both Mel Brooks and Carl Reiner. And that went for about $150. They also had a Power of the Force 12-inch speeder bike with Scout Trooper action figure, and that went for about, I want to say it was 60 or 80. Um, and then oh, they had a vintage X-Men Wolverine action figure on the card back and everything that Cal Dodd signed, and then he was throwing in a cameo appearance as well, and that sold for about $275. And then they had a meet and greet with Jay Lee from the Orville, who he plays the engineer on the Orville, and that went for about $275 to $300. And then they also auctioned off a meet and greet with Dr. Aaron McDonald, who is the science advisor for the entire Star Trek universe, and that went for $500. So last night alone, they came close to, or if not succeeded, $1,200, which is huge. And all those proceeds, went to charity, which is so important. Charity is so important when it comes to these communities, because it really shows you how how kind these communities are, how they rally around each other, because that's very important. That to me is one of the most important things that you can do, is to help one another. And tonight during the masquerade, they are going to have more items up for bid, which is really cool and really awesome. And you'll get to see these amazing charities being supported some more. And I'm going to be talking about that later tonight. I'm probably going to go live probably after the masquerade. Um, so yeah, you're getting a couple of lives this weekend, and I'm really excited about it. I'm really excited about tonight, especially to see the masquerade, but to see the people come together to support these charities, to see the community come together and have a good time. And yeah, this is like one giant party. It really is. This is a giant party, but it's so much fun. And okay, let's get into today. I talked about last night. Um, let's get into today. So I ended up working on some stuff this morning and ended up getting out on this show floor about 11 or so. But I worked on a day one audio recap, and then Empire dropped the news that Phantom Menace was coming out in theaters for the 25th anniversary on May 3rd, which I said, okay, well, now I have to. I was literally almost out the door when I got the notification, and I said to myself, okay, well, now I have to sit down and now I have to record something about the Phantom Menace coming back to theaters. so, so we did that. Then I got out onto the show floor and ended up getting a couple of autographs, or well, I got an autograph, and then my wife got I met Cal Dodd, the voice of Wolverine from X-Men the animated series, and got him to sign my animated series adaptations omnibus, which is really cool. And he was actually kind of floored by it. He was like, "What is this?" And I said, "Oh, these are all adaptations of the stories that you all told in X-Men the animated series." I said they've all been adapted to comic book form. And he said, "Oh my god, I never knew that they did this." And it was really cool to talk to him. And then my wife, um, which if you know me, my wife makes these geeky pop culture cats that are plush, and so she gave him a Wolverine cat. Um, and then it was just really cool. It was really cool. It was a fun experience. I almost kind of started crying afterwards because whenever I meet somebody, um, like a voice actor or an actor that had a huge impact on my childhood or a huge impact on my life, I get a little emotional because, well, because it's that person and, their work is important. So just seeing that and experiencing that was just really cool. We also met Tawny Newsome, who is Beckett Mariner in Star Trek Lower Decks, which is a wonderful animated series. It's definitely adult, but it is a great Star Trek show and super funny. Oh my gosh, it's so funny. But we met Tawny Newsome, and then my wife made a plush Moopsie. Moopsie's this creature from season 4 of Lower Decks that ended up uh, eating creatures' bones, um, and it just like leaves a husk of the creature. So that was a lot of fun. um, and we put it in a cage and everything, and we brought it up to Tawny, and she said, "Oh, is this a Moopsie?" And and we said, "Yeah, yeah, it's a Moopsie." And then she goes, "Well, why is it in the?" And I was like, "Moopsies have to be in the cage, remember?" And she's like, "Oh yeah." So it was really funny. And apparently, Paramount hasn't made a Moopsie plush. What is wrong with you, Paramount? Make a Moopsie. Come on, people would buy Moopsie. So that was a lot of fun. And then we went into the main panel room and sat down for Cal Dodd's Q&A, and that was really interesting. I felt like Cal Dodd, hearing about his career was really cool, and how he actually got the audition for Wolverine originally by doing voices in a Chrysler commercial. And then they said, "Hey, do you want to audition for this animated thing?" Um, and so he auditioned for it. And as he was auditioning, um, they kind of gave him pointers on who to sound like, and they said, "Yeah, we kind of want you to sound a little bit like Clint Eastwood." Um, and he said, "Yeah, I can do that." but then he also wanted to add a twist to it. This guy's like 5'3". Wolverine's like 5'3". So of course, he wants to make the character his own, and he ended up doing that. And it was really interesting. And then he worked on X-Men the animated series for 5 years, and then um, he they did all of their recording in Toronto actually, and most of the voice cast for X-Men the animated series was all Canadian. Most of the voice cast was Canadian, which I thought was really interesting and a lot of fun. And then he was talking about how when they would do their recording sessions, he would actually record all of Wolverine's lines, but he wouldn't have any lines opposite of him. He wouldn't have somebody voice acting opposite of him. And that just goes to show you like how good of an actor he is. Um, and then we also found out that he was a singer in Canada, and that was a lot of fun to find out as well. I am going to be doing an audio recap as well, where I'm going to be diving more into the specifics and everything. Um, but for now, I just wanted to go live, because I've got all this adrenaline amped up right now, and I just have to talk about it, in front of you guys, like live on YouTube here. So it was really interesting. He also had to re-audition to play Wolverine for X-Men 97. And he auditioned by rereading his lines from the story Cold Vengeance, which is Wolverine versus Sabretooth above the Arctic Circle. And I love that story so damn much. If you have not watched Cold Vengeance, or even if you haven't read the comic, I suggest that you do so. I was gonna say, if you haven't watched Cold Vengeance, you should. It's on Disney Plus. If you have Disney Plus, you really should, because it's a great story. And then Cal also said that we could possibly see X-Men 97 as early as March, which I think would be fantastic. So keep an eye out for that, and just keep going. Uh, from there, we had Tawny Newsome come out for her Q&A, which was a lot of fun. Tawny is great to talk to one-on-one. She was also great in this Q&A. Really funny. Loved hearing about her career. One thing, the panel started with the entire audience chanting Lower Decks, because Tawny's on Lower Decks, which I love Lower Decks so much. It's such a great show. And then we heard a little bit about her career during the Q&A. And one of the things that was brought up is a lot of people asked like what the recording and animation process was. And Tawny said that they do all of their recordings before the stuff is animated, and then if they need to re-record something after the animation is done, then they'll bring in the actor to re-record the lines for specific animation. And I just found that kind of fascinating as somebody that's always been interested in voice acting and in animation. Um, I will also say, if you're wondering what this is, I am wearing a USS Cerritos uh, T-shirt that my wife made. This is a Tribble. Yeah, I have a Tribble, and you're just gonna have to deal with it. Um, I have not fed this because I do not want it to multiply into other triples. So, but it was fun talking about, or it was fun hearing her talk about that. And she was talking about improv and everything, and how a lot of the stuff that they do, especially like in that Strange New Worlds episode that they crossed over Lower Decks with, a lot of Beckett and a lot of Mariner and Boimler's lines were improvised, and the main producer Alex Kurtzman loved it so much that um, him and Tawny started talking more and more, and now Tawny is actually part of the writers' room for the new Starfleet Academy series that they're going to be uh, releasing on Paramount Plus. And the only thing that she could tell us was a lot of the writing is going to be a lot like Lower Decks. It's going to be very, very comedic heavy, which for a Starfleet Academy series, I'm happy with. Like, if you just want to show me how Starfleet students get through the school year, I'm golden. I'm good with that. And like, you can easily do the Kobayashi Maru as like a huge joke and everything, and like really play into the thing that Kirk cheated for the Kobayashi Maru. Um, you could really play into all of that. And to see Tawny Newsome starting to write on or part of the writers room for Starfleet Academy just really made me happy, because I will tell you this right now. I am a Star Trek fan. Like, I really am. Yeah, I'm a Star Wars podcast. I have a Star Wars podcast, but I am a Star Trek fan. I love Star Trek. I think Strange New Worlds is amazing. I love Prodigy. I'm not a big fan of Discovery. I think that there's some stuff that they've done with Discovery that's hasn't sat well with me. Um, maybe it's just I think it's just I don't like the way the story's delivered for Discovery. But I will tell you this right now: I love Lower Decks. Star Trek Lower Decks is it's as somebody whose favorite Star Trek show is Deep Space Nine, which is very, very serious. I I love Lower Decks. I love how silly it is, how fun it is, how endearing the characters are. I love all of it. And if you're a fan of Lower Decks, that's awesome. If you have not watched Lower Decks, you really should. It is so silly and so ridiculous, but it is Star Trek in the best way possible. It pays so much homage to what has come before, and I love it. Oh my gosh, I love that show so much. And it was really cool to hear Tawny Newsome geek out about it and talk about it. And she also talked about her time doing Space Force and how, you know, season 2 they like slashed the budget and everything for Space Force. So she said they went all in on the silliness for season 2 of Space Force, and it ended up working. They hated that She hates that it ended as abruptly as it did, but she says that she's very grateful for having done it. So after that, I went to a Star Wars and stuff panel where we just talked about a lot of upcoming projects. Where all of us that were sitting in the panel room just talked about upcoming Star Wars projects. And then it kind of shifted focus to Star Trek. And then at that point, our pizza was on the way, so we had to go and meet our delivery driver so that we could get pizza. And now my wife is at the drag show, which is going on right now. I figured that during this time I could actually, go live and talk to you all and give you just the raw experience right now of what's going on here at Farpoint. Yeah, I'm in the hotel room, but I have like this weird fandom high right now, and I love it. Like, this I will tell you this right now. This weekend is long and fast at the same time. Like all cons are. I mean, if you've been to cons before, you know exactly what I'm talking about. So it's one of those things where, um, yeah, it's a wild ride, and by the time it ends, you think, "Where's the time gone?" But then you also think, "Wow, that was a really long weekend." And I'm a little sleep deprived right now. I did not get much sleep last night. I kind of also stayed up till about 1 a.m. playing Uncharted 4 on my PC, and then waking up about 7:30 or so. So I am a little sleep deprived. Hopefully, I'll get some more sleep tonight. But I love these cons. I really do. And once again, to Sharon and the entire Farpoint team, thank you. Like, seriously, thank you for what you do. Thank you for this convention. Thank you for everything that you all do. Um, Also, thank you for finding a new home as quick as you did, because this con is important. A lot of people look forward to this con because it's a chance to see their friends. Even though a lot of people see a lot of even though a lot of attendees here see each other a lot, it's a chance to reconnect. It's a chance to meet new people, to get to know one another, to geek out about everything, to have that debate of who's the better captain, Kirk or Picard. But I'm going to just interject and say it's Benjamin Sisko, because Sisko is the best Star Trek captain. It's to debate whether or not Han shot first or Greedo shot first. It's to talk about your favorite kaiju, to talk about your favorite superheroes, to talk about your favorite anime, to talk about your favorite Star Trek character, your favorite Star Wars character. A chance to just hang out, to see each other, to get to know one another. Like I said, Chris Carruthers, as I said earlier, stated this as a family reunion where you see the family that you've known and loved your entire life, but then you meet new members of your family as the family continues to grow. And last night during the opening ceremonies, we got to see generations of the families of the founders of this convention come together to welcome everybody, to celebrate this community, to celebrate everything that this community is about. And I know it's hard to take me a little seriously right now because there is a tribble on my shoulder, but I get it. And this con has become special to me too. This convention is something, like I said, this is my second time doing this, and I was more excited for it this year than I was last year. And just like last night, Sharon, who's the con chair for Farpoint, was going around during the cocktail hour, and just saying hi to everybody, and recognized my wife and I, and talked to us for a few minutes, and just was checking to see how we were doing and everything. And it means so much. This con This con is special. This con is so damn special. I don't know what else to say. I've been talking nonstop for close to an hour, and I could talk more and more. Like I said, I am going to do a live later tonight after everything is said and done, and really dive into the rest of day two here. And then, of course, tomorrow I'll be doing some audio and stuff. And then I'll probably do a live stream after I get home tomorrow night to talk about just the weekend as a whole, because this is something just so special. That's all I got. Like I said, Farpoint Group, if you guys are watching this, thank you. Thank you so much. If anybody attending the con is watching this, I'll see you later tonight for Masquerade. I'm excited. Can't wait to see you all. Let's make the last day and a half of this convention even more epic than the first day and a half was. That's all I got. So, like I said, I'll be live later tonight as I almost dropped my pen. Wish that you all were here. Maybe next year. I think it'd be fun. I think it would be a lot of fun just to have all of us hanging out for Farpoint. Whether you're a Star Trek fan, a Star Wars fan, an anime fan, what have you, it would be just so much fun to hang out. So let's try to hang out next year. So that's it for me for now. Like I said, I'll be back later tonight. But until then, may the force be with you. May you always fight for light in life. May you live long and prosper. And just remember at the end of the day, we're all the Republic. Until then, have a good one.